Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Wayne Blue. This is the Raptors Reaction Podcast, brought to you by Betway for all your sports betting activities. Hit the QR code that you see here on the screen or follow the link that you see on the description of this episode. Raptors lose tonight by a score of 132 to 126. But guess what? Ethical tank losses back on the menu. I wouldn't call anything about this game a tank, actually. The Raptors actually gave an incredible effort. They took the best team in the NBA right down to the wire. And obviously, the Cavs had just a little bit more. Even on the night when they rested Donovan Mitchell, they still had another one of their star point guards available. And Darius Garland legitimately gave one of the best performances I've seen from him ever. I would say that was probably the best opposing performance we've seen from somebody playing the Raptors all season. He was just like phenomenal. Like literally he had the answers at every single step. And of course he hit a huge pull-up three to give the Cavs that separation, to give Cleveland yet another win. They only have 4 losses on the season. This is just a dream year for the Cavs. I mean, they're 33-4. That's ridiculous. 33-4. Meanwhile, the Raptors obviously have lost 4 straight. They dropped to 8-30 on the season, but still a really, really positive game in terms of what we saw from the team. I really wanted to highlight a lot of good things, and it's been too long, so we're going to bring him back. Joining me once again on the Raptors Reaction Podcast is Samson Folk, who has labeled himself a Garland fan. Unfortunately, you can't see it under the banner here, but yeah, what's going on, man? This was a fun game. This is a really fun game.
It was a great game. When you said back on the menu, immediately Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself.
If you would like, later on, we can recreate that scene, because I'm pretty sure I can go bar for bar with that whole entire scene, you know. Yeah. But I think we could focus on a couple of things first. Yeah. But if you do want to do it, I will totally do it at probably the 50-minute mark of the game.
To your point, Garland was awesome. It felt like nothing could stop him from killing his dribble. Kept it alive, probe, find a shot. Pirouetting in the lane, finding his way to a floater, similar to Scottie actually a little bit. You know, Scottie killed the dribble early, but he got into the middle and he was mucking it up and finding like a lot of those really fun like post faders that he's been more than dabbling in. It's been the bulk of his shot diet so far. I think that the Raptors got like a greater than the sum of their parts performance for the first time in God knows
like a month, like literally a month. This is better than the win that they had against Brooklyn.
Yeah,
right. Which was their only win in the last calendar month, by the way. But whatever.
Yeah. I think they have one away win all year. It's been really tough away from Scotiabank Arena. It's been really tough in a lot of respects, but this was a fun game with a lot of fun stuff, motivating throughout.
Okay, so there's 4 things that I really wanted to get to here. Let's start with just the game itself. Obviously, Raptors played it really well. It was kind of back and forth. It was close, but the Raptors actually were slightly ahead most of the time. They couldn't get enough separation because Cleveland's quite good, and if it wasn't Garland doing everything, they still got enough from like Ty Jerome giving them a push in the third quarter. I thought that Caris LeVert had a really quietly nice game that really the team really needed. Again, no, Donovan Mitchell does create a lot of opportunities for these other guys to show out. They did that. Weirdly, I felt like Toronto's front court actually played them better, especially if you consider, Scottie the power forward of that lineup alongside of Jakob. Jared Allen actually grabbed a ton of offensive rebounds and clearly had sort of a physicality advantage against Yak, but Yak also hit a lot of those push floaters, you know what I mean? It's been a while since we've seen Yak that involved, and I actually really liked that they involved Jakob so much. And then Scottie I thought was phenomenal. He actually outplayed Evan for me, and actually, just for petty reasons, I would love to get into a discussion with you there. But what aside from Garland, like, what do you think was the big like separating factor, or maybe that's just is the only separating factor here? Because Toronto played well enough to win, which is kind of nuts to say on the road against a 33-4 team.
Yeah, as much as we all love Jakob and that he's been, a really great center for a team that needed someone to uphold that front court position over the course of this season, Jared Allen is awesome. Like he's an all-star big, and just year in and year out, whether he gets selected or not, he's there. And Evan Mobley has made significant strides this year, not only as a scorer, but just in his overall game. Like Scottie finished with 8 assists, and that's a big deal. But like Mobley had 6, Jakob had 6. There was a lot of front court playmaking in this game. And Mobley also like 21 points on 11 shots. Some of that is spoon-fed.
A lot of dunks, bro.
Pump. Some of that is a pump, a left-handed live dribble, 3 dribbles down, a shoulder into a guy's chest to clear out, and a left-handed finish. Like,
Sure,
there's a lot of stuff that Mobley was able to do in this game. Allen was awesome. And as you said, like, Caris LeVert, people were questioning his style of play when he first joined the Cavs, but he's a very talented player, and he's kind of comported to their overall ideology of how they want to run offense. And he's shooting almost like 50-45 splits this year.
Goodness.
He's been so efficient. He moves quickly off the ball. He's a dynamic live dribble creator. He beats closeouts just like Max Strus, Ty Jerome. There's a lot of stuff. George Niang was like rumbling down the lane and giving like Magic Johnson passes. They play fun basketball. They move the ball.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the Cavs are a great example of like, even though they're, again, I want to give them full credit. They're 33-4. This is like the ultimate, more than the sum of their parts team all season. This is a team that has like come to define a personality and a style. Obviously, under Kenny Atkinson, they already had a pretty good style. Obviously, before there was a lot foundation to sort of build off of there. But it's almost like that Dwayne Casey to like Nick Nurse, sort of like, okay, you've hit a ceiling potentially with the group and sort of the talent as is. Maybe we try to play a slightly different way. And it's really like worked so well. Of course, they're also managing to sort of avoid injuries, but also at the same time, when you don't have to overplay your players because you're winning every game, you could do a good job of that. I mean, again, it's just really impressive watching this team. Like watching this game for them, it gave me the same impression as like when I watched Memphis. Actually Memphis I thought was probably a lot sloppier. But they just played against a Raptors team that gave them no fight that night. Raptors actually gave a ton of fight tonight. And, I liked a lot of what the Raptors did too. I mean, all due respect to Cleveland, but, I think Raptors have played Cleveland well in the past with similar elements. And tonight was kind of no exception to that. I think that when you come into all these games, you always want to see Scottie versus Evan Mobley. Obviously that lingering debate is now year 4 now. Probably on the season, Evan has taken the edge. If we're going to be completely honest, I did watch Cavs Thunder last night with one eye and the other eye on Raptors Knicks, unfortunately. But I did see Evan take it strong to Isaiah Hartenstein for a little, jump hook at the end there to sort of clinch the win last night as well. But I actually, every time I watch it, I'm just like, man, like I know Evan's a really great player and he has a lot of supporting elements and things like this, but and his on-ball creation is getting better. As you mentioned, he's finishing more drives. He's way more commanding on drives than he used to be. I don't know. Watching this game, I'm like, yeah, but Scottie still played better. Like, Scottie still was able to sort of go one-on-one against Evan Mobley and score with him, at, 3-4 times? The play where he got into a half spin, I feel like Scottie did a great job of playing his back to the basket, half spin, a shoulder fake over the left, then goes right middle, spins, finishes the little jump hook. That was really beautiful. That gave Scottie, I think, 4,000 career points. The pull-up jumpers, the baseline jumpers. I actually thought Scottie really, really played. He played a really good game in this one. And for me, like, I don't know, the bag looked better. Can we walk away with something at least? Can I leave here with something? Scottie's bag looked deeper than Evans, please.
Scottie's bag is deeper than Evans.
Thank you.
I think that Evan was better tonight than Scottie. Like Scottie, well, it's fine, but I take Scottie. I take Scottie into the future for what it's worth. But Scottie left his game in the hands of shot making. Like, he didn't get to super dangerous spots on the floor with his dribble.
Okay.
Like the shot he missed in the clutch was, he killed his dribble. He had to go to that fadeaway, and he shot like 5 of 7 from, I think, in the second half, and most of it on either mid-rangers or a catch over the top when they ran Horn's chin punch to get him that post entry. He left it up to his shot making, and in this game, Scottie's shot making, the jump shot, was really up to the challenge. Evan, that quiet excellence was really there. Like 21, 11, and 6.
That was good
on 11 shots. And we know how good his defense is. Like, Allen and Mobley are a huge part of why Quickly finishes with 10 points. Also, Darius was pretty spry on ball. But, like, it's just, I give Mobley the win tonight. That's fine. But I still take Scottie going forward. It's not bad. You can lose a matchup every once in a while. It's fine. I'm just glad Scottie was, like, up for this game. Yeah, and that he had that strong finish.
Do you think there's something like, do you think they're aware of it? Obviously, like, there's a lot of, narratives getting pushed. Fans like to sort of push for these things. I personally like to push for these kind of things. It's just entertaining for me. Do you think that they, like, especially Scottie in a matchup, does this look like he was more engaged for this specific game?
He, like, on the glass, yeah, I think that he was more demanding. Like, even the way he was a hawk to be a screener in this game was more involved.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of games we've seen where Scottie will kind of float on the perimeter a lot,
Yeah,
but in this game, he was kind of
he was
like,
really good.
you know what? I'll be the power forward. I'm going to stalk guys, make sure I plant screens. I'm going to be super active getting to the screening spot and supporting my guards. The guards didn't support him back super a lot in this game, but he was in the mix a lot more as a bit of like a bone grinder offensively than he usually is. And on defense, I mean, he was very involved against Giannis for those possessions, but he kind of waxed and waned. And even though he did get beat off the dribble by guys like,
It's mostly Garland.
Like Darius, and then also you have like Ty Jerome and like a little bit of everybody there. LeVert, he's still really active trying to get out there and stop him. It's a function of the limitations of the Raptors roster, but Scottie met the moment with his effort, which is when you're as good and talented and big as Scottie is, you're going to end up with, a decent game at the very least.
Yeah, for me, like, I actually really have very few complaints. Actually, I have no complaints about this Scottie performance whatsoever. Like, I love the fact that I think he had 3 assists early on. He did a really good job of sort of just starting the game well. Got the Raptors out in transition, set the pace for them. As you mentioned, met the challenge defensively. He, like most games, has to do the most defensively for the team. And you even saw Darko in the fourth quarter saying, okay, we're going to make the adjustment. We're going to save it until the end because we're in a close game. So we're going to save this adjustment until the end. But Scottie, go out there and chase Garland around. And if you have to switch, I mean, you probably don't want to because you definitely don't want Yak switching on to Garland because, that's not going to work. But can you make it difficult and force him downhill and then use your crazy length to at least force a couple of misses? And there were like 2 drives by Garland where he drove it and he missed it and stuff like that. That to me was like, after playing all out for the entire game and doing a lot offensively, and then that request is made on the second half of back-to-back, like, I actually really liked that challenge that Darko sort of put on him and that he actually accepted. The play where he got stuck, as you mentioned, that's actually, I know this is kind of a hindsight thing, but it kind of felt like the whole possession was a little off. Like RJ was like struggling to get the ball passed, and then there wasn't much action, and then we got Scottie in that side, but he wasn't really like faced up, sizing up his guy and everything like that. It felt like he was sort of backing into it, couldn't really decide what to do. And I was just like kind of like looking at Darko. I was like, please call this timeout just to sort of organize it because this offense has like this whole possession has no flow. It's easy to say this in hindsight. I promise you, I thought that in the moment too. But like it was like a minute left, a 2-point game. And I do feel like if they come out and score in that possession, and the Raptors did a really good job of coming out of timeouts and executing, especially getting Scottie close to the rim with those sort of high-low passes from Jakob. Again, it's sort of like, that's not a nitpick. It's more for me. It was just like, I wish that, we got a little bit more out of that possession because the play right afterwards, Garland hits the step back 3 and the game's pretty much clinched at that point. But it's a fun one. Honestly, like at this point, when you look at, for example, the All-Star returns, I think the second round has come back in. You do see obviously that 2021 draft class like pretty prominently represented, right? You see, Franz is up there. Mobley is making that list. I think there's one more that I saw. Maybe Şengün, probably. Şengün fully would deserve it too, out in the West. But yeah, like it's just like nice little casual check-in. Like how's the Rookie of the Year race going in 2025? Basically, Cade, of course, Cade. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for the chat. Yeah,
I think it's a function of the team at this point. Like, for example, if I had told you that in the, like, roughly, what is it, like, between 40-50 games since Pascal got traded and Scottie's usage rate, like, jumps up, like, 4 or 5%, that he'd average less than 20 points per game in those games, I think at the time of the Siakam trade, everyone would have been, like, shocked. Like, would have said, that's preposterous. But that's what happened. Scottie hasn't got as easy of looks. Scottie's had to create more with the live dribble. He's had to stress and test out the limitations of his game in a way that, Cade has been doing since year one, in a way that we see Mobley do in flashes, but not as relied to do. Franz obviously has been doing it for some time as well. Scottie is a guy who is testing out the limitations of his game, and that's very hard for him. That's why, like, that clutch shot was like, he went to the mid post where he scored a bunch, but he's not getting deep and keeping live dribble and completely dissecting the defense. He's testing out what he's capable to do. And when Scottie gets to play on a good team in the future, when that happens, the amount of good stuff he'll be able to bring, and it's why I'd take Scottie over Mobley going forward, and Cade even, is that Scottie can be such like a force multiplier as a play finisher, as an in-between passer, as a sometimes creator, and as a defender that like the races of rookie of the year and the retrospectives are always just going to be a function of like who's on the team right now and how good can you make a star look, because the NBA is deeper than ever. It's more contextual than ever. And Scottie's in a tough spot right now. And he's trying. He's not having a ton of success, but he's trying.
Yeah, I think first off, that draft class obviously is just really talented, right? Again, we're gonna have multiple All-Stars from that draft class. It's gonna sort of shift and vary at that time. I think contextually, it's also important to remember, like the year that Scottie got drafted to the Raptors, he did get a better situation than a guy like Cade, right? Like there was a lot more like players who are good players already on this team, right? Like Pascal, Fred, OG, like Precious that year was definitely a good player. Oh my goodness, that 2022 Precious with the arena 80% capacity, bro, he was a problem. He was knocking down threes. Chris Boucher was having a really nice year that year as well. I felt like that. One of the cases that I remember, I used to remember like bringing on some of the award voters and getting them on the Raptors show and be like, please let me talk you into the good word of Scottie Barnes for Rookie of the Year. And I remember a lot of the cases I was making was like, look, he's contributing to winning, right? Like there was like a win in Denver, I believe, on the road, or like they beat the Lakers, and it was like, like pretty clear cut, like he's contributing to winning. Of course, that always helps when you're part of a winning team. And I agree with you that Evan's probably slightly ahead right now just because of on the season, because of the fact that he's on a, like, look, they're on a 70 win pace. Like, come on now. But at the same time, like, yeah, I do agree with you. It's funny because like the comparison between him and Cade is like Cade's like Bane, like he was like born in the darkness. Like Scottie's just like he's adopting it right now.
Yeah.
The way Batman ends, like he does come back and kill Bane. So like, hopefully we win that one in the long run. But that was always fun. It's always fun to watch that. I think the other prevailing storyline of the last few weeks has been sort of the performance of Darko Rajakovic. And sort of like, the question of, are the players responding to the team? Is it just the team is not really doing well in general? Like, what can you do? Can you get a defensive response from the team? I actually really liked what Darko did pretty much the whole fourth quarter. I really liked how he managed the game, maybe in general. I'll just make the case that, like, coming out of yesterday's game, if you were going to go into this game tonight with the objective of trying to win and compete, you would put Chris Boucher in the rotation. You would put Davion Mitchell into the rotation, at least for some moments, just to like, not play him like 20 minutes, but just give him like some moments, especially considering, obviously, with Cleveland, they're going to generate a lot of offense through their point guard. You want your best defensive point guard out there. Then over the balance of the game, I thought the Raptors obviously, especially when coming out of the fourth quarter, that quick sub to get Jakob Poeltl back into the game, I thought stabilized them a little bit because Cleveland was about to pull away. I like the fact that every time Cleveland tried to zone against the Raptors did a really good job of sort of playing through that zone, getting into the middle, and either finding Jakob or finding Scottie, and they did a good job of just attacking that zone. Cleveland never really committed to that zone because it wasn't really effective. They countered the zones really well. Coming out of those timeouts, as you mentioned, running those plays where they got Jakob in the high post, Scottie getting a cut back door, boom, nice high-low passes. They scored twice on those. I love the fact that he actually went back to Chris Boucher as well to close, both the first half, because it was Boucher plus starters at the end of the second quarter, and it was Boucher plus starters at the end of the game. Unfortunately, Boucher missed a corner three at the end, but bro, come on, Chris Boucher also gave you an amazing game. I thought that, like, yeah, there wasn't a wasted, challenge as well. Like, I thought Darko actually managed this game really well. It didn't really pop off of the refs, you know what I mean? Like, even small things like when Jacoby gave up a foul or whatever, I think he like wrapped up a big and he went over to the sideline and Darko was like, slap at the ball instead. Like, don't try to wrap him up. Like, you're not going to, you're just giving up a foul. At least try to contest on the play. I thought he had a really good game tonight. And I know that I'm now gaining more of a reputation for being like a Darko skeptic, but like, I'm trying to be as fair as possible. Like, this was a really good Darko game.
So this is, I think I have a reputation as a Darko defender, which I think is accurate. So we're coming at this from opposite angles.
Sure.
That's fun. Maybe we, at the end of the season, you and I just do a full length pod discussing like why. If he makes it, I think he'll make it.
No, he'll make it, man. Come on, guys. We're not firing Darko right now, and it's not the right move to fire Darko right now. Like, let's make very clear. And I've never said anything remotely like that.
So I did like the game a lot. When he gets to draw up the plays, when he gets to like go to work on the clipboard. The Raptors, I think, are one of the 3 best teams in the NBA out of timeouts. Like his work with the pen is pretty impressive and has been all year, especially considering that the Raptors don't have that impressive live dribble creation. And, you know, as far as like playing fun basketball, Chris Boucher, yeah, like he's a very fun player. He's a firework. He's a live wire. He can get into the game. And like, yeah, he was plus 10 in his 26 minutes. You look at, he was like plus 23 for the start. He scored 10 points in 2 minutes last game. Like he just gets on the floor. He starts making things happen. And he is also, just in how he plays, like a major knuckleball to especially a team like the Cavs that wants to like put 2 dribbles down and then reverse it over their shoulder back out. Like putting Chris Boucher in the middle of all that ball movement to just like stick his arms in places, it's even defensively makes a lot of sense. As much as the Raptors have struggled to rebound the ball with him on the floor, there's like the shot making went really well. The defensive activity, even though there's mistakes that were made, it helped. There's just a bunch of great Chris Boucher stuff going tonight. Grady, like it was a quick pull. They got a bit of shot making from Grady, but the defense wasn't there. He looks gassed at this point in the season. He's playing less minutes per game. You know, you were in the room the other day when Doc was like, you know, sometimes you have to walk that fine line of making players earn minutes. Like, seems to me like Grady's being put in a little bit more of a like, hey, you got to earn the time on the floor now, which I think is a good coaching decision.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yep.
As you said, stabilizing with Jakob, he played RJ 37. He played Scottie 37. They drew up plays for Scottie late to put him in an advantageous situation. Like lots of good stuff. There's been Trey and I for the Saturday podcast. I think we might be doing the everything that the Raptors are bad at podcast because we've been pretty optimistic over the course of the season. Yeah, there's a lot of things they're really bad at, but there's tonight was a good one. Very fun.
Tonight was a really good one. And I think that like again, like it's important to acknowledge that like the Raptors were like 14-point underdogs coming into this game. I think that might have been even after Mitchell was ruled out for rest. You know what I mean? Like it's important to acknowledge that like there are some of these moments where they can sort of punch up. And obviously this is their best effort in literally a month. So we're praising them at their peak here. But I think more than anything else, like even the Darko discussion, I think for me it just comes down to like, you know, do the players respond? And if they're not responsive in some of these games, does he correct / does he hold them accountable? A lot of that is hard to sort of evaluate, I suppose, unless you're, because we only get the biggest window we get into what the team does is during the game. Obviously, that's also the most important part. But you know what I mean? Like it feels like, at least in the last, you know, week here, when they've gotten their full squad together, they're like, okay, we are going to try our best to win and compete. And honestly, this type of effort would have been good enough to beat like probably 20 teams in the league that they played like tonight. Obviously, they still lost. There's still things that you can sort of go through. But
they didn't get much from Quickly either. And they still were in it like that.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And I don't think that's an interesting conversation if you want to have that too, in terms of like what's Quickly's role and what's expected of Quickly in a game like this. When you obviously have the other point guard going off like that, is he going to shut off the tap for him? Is he going to go shot for shot with him? You know what I mean? Like, you know, what was his involvement? But I think just in general, like over the last week, I'm seeing Darko like trying his very best to like win some of these games. Like I don't think that like coaches are actively involved in tanking. And honestly, if you do believe that Darko is just taking every decision of like there's like a tanking play at hand, then you're also saying that he's accepting anything that the front office tells him to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, what was my original thing was just kind of like he kind of says yes to things that the front office wants him to do, right? That's not to say whatever. My point is that like I actually liked the effort that he gave tonight, and I would welcome this more often. Not just because it led to more like competitive basketball. Actually, no, exactly because it led to more competitive basketball. What am I saying? Yeah, I really had no complaints with him tonight. But I mean, in general, like setting a defensive intensity or like a tone, accountability, blah blah blah. I don't know. Where are you at with that?
Yeah, there's a lot of things like the framework of what the Raptors have decided to do offensively. I really love. I think that they're a team that struggles a ton with live dribble creation, so they created an offense that relies on hubs and doesn't require that much dribbling to score. Sure, they make a lot of north-south passes. They cut a lot. They make sure that they pass from high-low opportunities. They screen a lot. Like there's a bunch of moving parts that requires some familiarity, but I think that's like a really great thing. It still hasn't been that good. It's been actually bottom 10 in the league, but defensively, and I'll talk about this at length with Trey, but
Mhm.
like the decision and the schemes to me defensively make little sense, especially for the guys on the roster. But then
Right.
you have to ask, this is what I talked about with Joe,
Mhm.
is you have to ask yourself, like, are you building the defense for now, or are you trying to build the defense for the future? That includes, like, maybe there's 4 or 6 guys on this roster currently who are on the team in 4 years or 3
Yeah.
years or whatever.
Sure.
Like, do you start now? How early do you start building? And how much of coaching is building for the future, and how much is maximizing the guys now? Like, those really,
Yeah.
like, yeah, what is coaching really? How easy is it? How hard is it to, like, discern from the outside?
Mhm.
There's a bunch of stuff there, but as far as like the compete level, you and I talked about it before we started recording, and I was like, it's really hard to write about this team because what am I supposed to do? Complain? Like, write down complaints every night? Like, damn, they're so
I mean,
bad, and you can't, like,
yeah.
talking. You and I, we're
Uh-huh.
professional yappers. We can talk,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like actually sitting down for a curated piece about like they're bad again. I don't know how
Mhm.
many times I can write that, dude. So the compete level ratcheting up, I'm there, brother.
Yeah.
I'm so
No,
there.
a lot of good material tonight, man. And again, like that's where the games where they give up 155, or the games where they start out with 31 straight turnovers, or going to Boston, give up like losing by 52, 54 points. Like,
I think
you know
it
what I mean?
was
Like
55, wasn't it?
55, yeah, 55
Like a
burger.
franchise
Jesus,
record.
not a double nickel. Yeah, that's But yeah, I also have to say all this with the acknowledgement that like Darko has one of the hardest jobs in the league. It just is. So he has no pressure really, because I don't think again, like anything that happens this year is not going to change his job status. But I don't feel like I do feel like it's one of the hardest jobs. I guess last thing I wanted to touch on before we obviously take a quick break, we got to the questions in the chat here. Of course, leave them in the chat. Also, if you're enjoying this conversation, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, please. What did I like here? The Boucher Renaissance. Yeah, we got to go to the Boucher Renaissance at this point. So
Woo-hoo.
Chris, under Darko's time, has obviously not been the favorite son.
No,
I would argue almost under all the coaches that I guess only the only two. He only played for Nick, and he's played for. Did he play for Dwayne that year? 2018.
he played for Steve Kerr.
He did play for Steve
like
Kerr.
a
Sure.
little. Actually, you know what? Like between Steve and Nick, that's like a lot of hard ass coaching. And then Darko is maybe not so much, but
Right.
The team has maybe different ideas about what it is going forward.
The Chris thing, and Chris is like a bellwether for the Raptors. Like the more that you need Chris, like the worse of a spot that you're usually in. Because like the Tampa season was like, oh yeah, like we gotta, you know what I mean. But like also at the same time, it's impossible not to love Chris. Not only is he like a just a cheery, lovable guy to sort of be around, you know, he's like good vibes, whatever, stuff like that. But like you kind of have, he like eventually you might like be a little sour on him, you know, be like, oh, okay, he made a mistake here or there. To be honest, putting Chris in a ball movement system is like just throwing a child into traffic type of thing. But also, he always earns your respect in the end. And maybe I'm just speaking from my own personal experience, but like he really fights through. And like it feels sometimes like when he plays, you're just like, you can't keep a good man down. Because obviously last game, when they played last night against the Knicks, this guy wasn't in the plans. That wasn't in the plans. If they played a regular game, he wasn't in the plans. Kelly Olynyk would have gotten all those backup minutes, and you know, Chris wouldn't have played. But of course, it was a blowout, so you throw him out there for 2 minutes. Now it's 3 minutes at the end of a game against Jericho Sims and Tyler Kolek. So, you know, what are you going to do? This is what Chris has done his whole entire career. Chris made his reputation at the start of his career on coming in garbage time and just lighting it up. This guy used to do this all the time in 2018, 2019. So I guess he did play for Dwayne. And this was like his thing. And I know it's kind of going back almost full circle now with his career with the Raptors. But he did that exact same thing, had the great 2 minutes, and then Darko actually says the next night, you know what, it's your turn. You progressively earned my respect. And obviously Chris is not going to give you this every game. But even the potential to have some of this on I didn't feel like he took bad shots. He actually made 2 plays where he turned down shots to make the extra pass. Salute to Chris, man. You just I mean, I don't know what his future is with the Raptors. I think we know that he's out of favor, but you still have to respect this man no matter what.
He also respects us. Do you remember his I can't remember his last year or the year before. I think it was the year before. His end of season presser. when he was like, because he's been podcasting for a while, and he's like, you
Oh, yeah.
guys, it's hard what you do. And I was like, damn, let's go. I was like, yeah, it's so true,
Oh,
Chris.
I thought you were gonna say
Podcasting.
that Chris watched used to be an avid watcher of Raptors Public and also
Oh,
of the
I
Raptors
mean,
show.
I probably not.
Yeah.
I feel like athletes would want like the hot take stuff, like cannon fodder, rather than like. I mean, a
More
lot of people
nuance.
like what I do, but
Yeah.
it's not like the most like hot and heavy stuff. I don't think.
I'll
And
just
I
say,
don't think Chris Boucher wants me to be going over like his rotations. Not really.
I mean, his rotations are his rotations. Like, it's not really arguable. You know what I mean? Sometimes they show you like your footage. It is what it is. But I do remember. So there was like an infamous sit down. We did a home and home series where Chris won on the Raptors show. I won on Boucher's podcast at the time. And I remember like going to like the set, and I was rather nervous because I was like, oh man, like never had an NBA player invite me on the pod. I've certainly invited lots of NBA players for conversations, never the other way around. But there had been sort of like sometimes a public back and forth sometimes, and so the idea was sort of like to sit down and meet each other in the middle. And I was like a little nervous. I was like, okay, what's going on? I show up, his parents were there behind the set, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to apologize to Chris Boucher in front of his parents. Like that would be kind of funny. So I got a little nervous, but then like we started just because like everyone's setting up microphones, you know what I mean? Like producers are running around, and so you just end up as the guests, like sitting beside each other and just having a chat sometimes. And we started just chatting, and he was like, no, like I actually do respect you, and like I really wanted to hear you out. I really want to sort of talk about sort of like the couple of things here and there. I told him the same thing. I was like, dude, like, and it was some of the stuff I said on there too, but it was just like, whatever. I didn't realize that he couldn't bulk up or anything like that. So there's that. And I do say that, like, there are probably some times where I'm over highlighting your mistakes, asking about other players. But also at the same time, like, he was like, yeah, but I watch your stuff all the time. And he was just like, I don't so understand why you were talking about me as much as, I was relevant, I suppose, to the team. And so he pulled up his phone and he was like, show me like Raps Republic videos and that he was watching, you know what I mean? And Raptor Show stuff. So, anyway, yeah, shouts to Chris, man. And then since then, we've done a live show together, raise money for his charity. When we see each other, we say hi and stuff like that too. It's like pretty friendly now. We've done a lot of interviews as well. He's even done me favors in terms of like, I remember one year I was like, hey, Chris, I really need an interview for like the show this week. And like the PR staff wasn't like particularly generous in sort of giving a player for that day, which is, it's just fine. It's their MO. It's fine. And Chris was like, no, not a problem. I got you, bro. And then he gave us some pretty honest, commentary and reflection on sort of like what went wrong with Nick towards the end, which is a pretty valuable interview. He's a great interview.
Quotes on the team, yeah. He's also you can, after you know a player for a while, because we never really know the player super well, but you can kind of get a sense of a guy. And Chris comes off as like a good human being. That's not always guaranteed. That's like
for sure.
Sometimes that's hard to come by. He's earnest, he's honest, and he cares about stuff. And his game and getting on the floor and scoring 23 and 12. Hell yeah. What a Chris
super fun. Yeah, super fun. I didn't even realize he was rebounding so much. All right. Well, I mean, I guess the other thing I want to talk about real quick before we go to break was just Grady, his minutes are coming down. We talked about it briefly. He did make shots better tonight. He made some quite frankly, some pretty ridiculous finishes. That's the thing where it's like when the stat came out that like Grady's really bad at finishing at the rim. I'm like, percentages, he shoots a low percentage at the rim, but he actually makes some very difficult shots at the rim, and he's just always sort of like going full speed and trying crazy shit out at the rim. Well, also you've talked about that a couple times, but actually, yeah, I mean, if he's not defending well enough, then you just can't have him on the floor, especially if you're trying to compete, and especially you set a tone defensively. And now that you have options health wise, that's why his minutes are coming down.
Yeah. Also, like, just because that was he isn't actually last in finishing. Like, it got aggregated as if he was, but that is a third party's weighted, like they ran it through metrics of saying like, this is a tough shot, this is an easy shot. And like, so it wasn't actual percentages. It was like, and also Grady's been a bad finisher, but him being last is like a third party adding like arbitrary values to things and then spitting out a formula that says it's Grady. And again, the catch-alls are catch-alls,
Sure.
Yeah. But anyway, also chat has been asking me to take my hat off for like the whole time. And I did. And I will say that's such a funny thing to do. Like the fact that we're doing a live podcast, I take my hat off and everyone yells bang in the chat. That's so funny, dude. Credit to the chat for that. That's very funny.
Here's the thing, Samson. Like the worst thing to be is like insecure about sort of like
Of course.
just your overall appearance, like you just gotta own it, bro. I gotta say, as long as I've like really, I feel like I've never known you like with hair, like, or you usually pick the head, and like you rock this look. You're confident with it. You know what I mean?
Be bald, man. You gotta come home.
Bro,
if the hair starts leaving you, you gotta leave the hair, man.
No, exactly, man.
I like Devin Carter, brother. You gotta join us. Derek White.
Devin Carter's a rookie, bro. What kind of rookie's got to pick their head? Alex saying ball don't lie. Tala, who's in the chat a lot. Samson's head has such a nice shine to it. Samson should be in one of the commercials with Grady. Actually, that would be sick because you have been Grady's biggest advocate. You and Evo basically have been Grady's biggest advocates. I feel like you at this point you deserve some of that Gillette money, man.
Shout out to Adam Lascaris, who actually did Grady and he did the Tony Stark cut. That was great, man.
Yeah. You wouldn't know it because Adam has grown all of the beard back since.
Yep.
He looks exactly the same as before, but yeah. Okay, well, this has been fun. Raptors lose, but it was a fun loss, and that's honestly, like, I'll take that 10 out of 10 these days. So we're going to take a quick break, hear from some of our beloved sponsors, and then when we come back, we want to hear about your thoughts on this game. Leave those questions in the chat. It's your last chance here, but we're going to go to break.
Hey, man.
Hey, buddy.
Just recently hit the big 4-0. What about you, bro?
A little more recently 4-0, but we are both in the 40 club.
Let me tell you, man, being an adult really comes with its share of challenges.
Definitely. I think both you and I are homeowners, and I think we're both also dealing with mortgages in life.
Yeah, man. Mortgage rates, choosing the right terms, dealing with paperwork. It can be really overwhelming,
I still don't know how that works.
Well, listen. That's where our friends at Dominion Lending Centers come in, man. They make the whole process simple and stress-free. Whether you're renewing your mortgage, hunting for the best rates, or if you just need advice, they're here to help, bro.
You know what? I am looking for that advice, and I think that's why I'm going to visit www.dominionlending.ca.
Yeah, man. www.dominionlending.ca. Take the guesswork out of your mortgage and step into financial confidence with our friends at Dominion Lending by our side.
Okay, big shouts to Dominion Lending, and now it is time for the Tangerine Fan Inbox, and I gotta remind you that Tangerine is the official bank of the Toronto Raptors, foundational partner of WNBA Canada and NBA Canada, and of course, they're not just fans of fans, they're not just fans of basketball, they're fans of basketball. They're fans of their own nickname for each guy in the starting five, or fans of fans who stand 5 inches from the TV, or fans who can recreate every player's layup package while sitting on their couch. I would love to see somebody try to recreate a Grady Dick reverse layup around Evan Mobley, which he does once per game against Cleveland. If you're hearing this, there's no doubt in your commitment. Fans like you are at the heart of what makes this game great. So this year, for the Raptors' 30th season, Tangerine is turning the spotlight from the court to the stands and celebrating the way Raptor fans support their team, because this is how we fan. To learn more, visit tangerine.ca/basketball. All right, producer Alex Wong, hiding in the shadows. What's going on, man? What are the streets saying? All right, first one from Vitor Oliveira. Good effort. However, feels like our boys don't respect possessions, though. There's been way too many easy giveaways. Samson, what say you about the Raptors turning the ball over and not respecting possessions?
Yeah, Darko has, before he became a head coach, has a big interview. He's had a few where he talked to like coaches and talked about installing offensive frameworks. And basically, the more you pass the ball, the higher correlation there is with turnovers. Mm-hmm. And even this, like the beautiful game Spurs turned the ball over quite a bit, the least compared to high passing teams, but they still turn it over quite a bit. That's why teams late in games pass the ball less. They isolate more, is because they don't want to risk a turnover. Yeah. If you're going to turn the ball over, at least have it come after you gave, an attempt at a shot. That's something they're always going to have higher turnovers because of that, because they rely on north-south passing, especially a lot. But also, yeah, there is a lot of mixed messages and signals. Kelly has had a lot of trouble actually on a lot of those like split actions and just like throwing the ball into get actions and stuff like that. Jakob's turnover percentage has been climbing too. Like, I think it's like a little bit of the brain fog of losing every game by however much. Like, you don't value a possession as much when you're in a game. And yeah, it's one, a function of the offense, how they play, but two, like, you're a really bad team and bad trends kind of like snowball if you don't nip it in the bud and you don't have like that positive feedback loop. And I think that's a lot of, and also Scottie's been averaging almost over 4 turnovers a game the past
Sure.
however many games. I think RJ is like just shy of like 3.5. Like they've had turnovers from everywhere, and I think guys are overextended, and that's tough. It's tough to be overextended in the NBA.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good players on the other side of the court.
It felt like this game in particular, Raptors, most of their turnovers went back the other way for layups. And I feel like that sort of exacerbates it. They only had 12 tonight against 34 assists. Like, I'll kind of take that ratio pretty much every day of the week. But some of those turnovers at the end were pretty costly. And I think especially becomes more of a focus late game, just like how missed free throws in the first quarter. You're like, whatever. Like, it's cool. Like, but like, at the end of the game, when Scottie goes 1 for 2, you're like, like I'm gonna remember that forever. You know what I mean? Like, late game, of course, like it becomes more important, as you mentioned. That's why we had Nick Nurse and Dwayne Casey for a decade. Like, I think we know what low turnover teams kind of look like. But it is also important that Darko was hired after Nick contextually as well, because Nick was so big on winning the possession battle, and if that means simplifying the offense and being really conservative with it. It is what it is. Darko, much more liberal. You know what I mean? Darko is like the liberal candidate. Nick is like the conservative candidate. Like, it's the austerity versus spending through a recession, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. I mean, certainly there's games where they can be sloppy, but tonight I actually didn't really feel like that tonight. So, but it's a good question overall. Next question from RJ Bargnani. Why, man? Why is that the name? What do those two players have to do with each other? What contenders could use the best French stretch 5 in the league? Of course, I'm talking about Chris Boucher. I have to remind you that Chris is not French. Chris is from St. Lucia and also from Montreal. Both places decidedly not specifically France, but also at the same time, I totally get the joke because he was maybe Wemby before Wemby. This is like the Charmander to Wemby's, at this point, Mega Charizard. Yeah.
So just quickly, can we aside that?
The evolution chain?
Chris, there's Bol, there's Wemby. Okay. Who else is in this? You know?
The freaky, super skinny, lanky, but also like wants to not play center. And
I guess Porzingis is there.
Porzingis is out for bad vibes, so I'm taking him off the list. Yeah. He's like the Charmeleon. Like, he's like, I'm not gonna listen to Ash. Like.
He doubled down on his bad vibes. We won't talk about it.
Chet is a good one. Someone brought in Chet here. Let's bring in Chet. Yeah, Chet is Charmeleon if he went through listening to hip hop phase. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Chris, Chet, Wemby.
There you go. Yeah, nice little evolutionary chain. Wemby, unfortunately, is going to be like the best version of this. So we're gonna give him the mega evolutions from those games. I don't know. People don't care about this anymore. But anyway, yeah. What contenders can use Chris? I've always thought that like a lot of teams could use a Chris Boucher, especially now that he's expiring. I look at a lot of teams on like a bit of length, a bit of somebody who can change the game off the bench a little bit for you. You're probably not going to play most of the time, but also at the same time, he's got the ability for the three. You just have to trust Chris. That's the thing. Like, you got to know that when you're getting Chris, like, you're obviously not going to get this all the time, and you can't be so focused on the consistency. And he's not going to hit the note every single time. He's not like I guess he's like a jazz soloist in a way. Like, he's gonna freestyle a little bit. It's gonna sound a little off sometimes. It's gonna be here, a little late, a little early, a little half tone. You're off there or there, but like, you gotta trust that like he's still gonna make some good music eventually. And like,
or Nick Coleman. And the bebop jazz musicians, people used to go to smoke while they performed. It took years until people started hearing the music properly. Yeah. Chris, you got to hear the music to understand. You can't go for the smoke break, out of the jazz club.
No.
I think, especially when you consider what Jay Crowder, they traded 5 second-round picks for him, and he hardly factored into a playoff rotation. If I'm another team that's like, yeah, maybe we need a little bit of like a wild card on the roster and it costs 1 second-round pick.
Yeah.
I would throw it at Chris Boucher, just like he might very well could steal you a game in the playoff. Like he could steal you like 3 quarters.
A quarter.
He could steal you a quarter here, a quarter there, a quarter there. Yeah, game is maybe a bit too much. Yeah, good call on that.
But we're flowing, man. We're flowing.
A quarter here and there.
Yeah,
it's worth something.
So I'm looking at teams that need some size. Indiana definitely could use some size. you know,
Hmm.
defensively doesn't raise it that much. Okay, what about Milwaukee? I like Milwaukee. You know, that's an old team. They're
Yeah.
already ready to get 30-year-olds. Chris is the most athletic 30-year-old in the league, it feels like.
Are they maybe light
Well,
on
yeah.
second rounders though, because they were the team that traded 5 for Jay?
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, what are we doing? Like, Jay is like in my mind, he's a solid 3D player, and it's like on the court, he does nothing. Like Clippers, you know, Clippers love collecting former Raptors. They got PJ Tucker just waiting. Yo, can PJ Tucker be a Raptor for 3 times, man? He might be the first 3-time Raptor ever if he made a swap like that. Sacramento, Phoenix, like honestly, like I actually could see him not being in the rotation every single game for most of these teams, but like when you're only giving him a second rounder and it's an expiring salary, like you don't have to. You just need somebody who can come in and do something, you know. But Nuggets, I actually like Nuggets too for them too.
Yeah, he could catch lobs. He makes that baseline a baseline cut all the
Yep.
time, and Jokic would see him. I think that's actually a pretty slick pairing.
Okay, yeah,
Russ would find him on passes too.
yeah,
I
sure.
think there's something there.
Little Snorlax Charmander combination.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, more questions. Let's go. This is good. We're in a good flow here. Next one from that's from Mixall Qual. Thoughts on how much Scottie seems to call for a foul rather than looking to continue the play. I know there's something to letting the refs know for the future, but I was always taught to play through. I do like that. You know when Pascal used to always go to the rim, spin move, and you go, hey! And it was like super loud on the mic that's underneath the basket. Scottie is essentially doing the same thing now, but it's like a lower pitch A. He's like, yo! Then he like goes up for a jump hook. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind if you're doing that like on the middle of your move, as long as it's not sort of stopping you from getting back in transition, which I even see much of that today. I'm generally fine with it. I mean, he's got a hard job, and he's a pretty emotive guy, so maybe obviously sometimes it's annoying, but you also have to understand they're humans. Like he's probably a little bit more active in complaining as compared to like other stars. Like he's not Kawhi and muted, but like yeah, I mean I don't know. This is not that big of a problem to me. But
Yeah.
what do you think?
I think like Scottie's a yeller in many ways.
Yeah,
like
he is.
he Darko will be like, Scottie, you're up. Like he'll get
Mhm.
as soon as he stands up and he's at the sideline to check, and he starts yelling.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you can hear him yelling on the court, like a lot of different things, like leading defense,
Sure.
asking for a foul,
Mhm.
trying to direct traffic offensively. Like he's extremely vocal, and that manifests in asking for free throws. The big thing though is that like Scottie is not like earning a bunch of free throws though.
Yes.
You know, like
Yep. What do you shoot today?
he what
6?
10 of 19. Or
He
yeah,
was 2
the
of
free
4
throws.
from free throws. But yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't get to the free throw line much. That's
Since
true.
since he sprained his ankle, basically like his drive percentage has gone down quite a
Mhm.
bit. The faders represent like between 40 to 50% of his shot chart,
Mhm.
and he's just not going to the rim very often. You're not going to get foul calls really.
Yeah.
And like it's less the yelling that refs respect,
Mhm.
and more so the like, are you being physical? Are you beating guys to spots? Like, are you getting fouled?
Mhm.
And especially for a guy like, you know, Grady gets a lot of fouls called for him because he like throws his body and he wants the rim really badly. And it's
Mhm.
very evident that he's getting fouled. But Scottie's so strong, like he can't be a guy who kind of just like sometimes takes it to the rim and expects like a super friendly whistle. He has to press that action repeatedly,
Mhm.
and then it'll come around. Yelling, I think it's just a function of who he is. You know, some players do, some players don't. It's fine.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think there's a line, because I think maybe sometimes there can be like negative body language. It's like throwing your hands up at a teammate, for example. Like I'm not saying that Scottie does this all the time. Like it's not a, you know what I mean? But like that would be an example of negative body language. Complaining to the referees is like almost the cost of doing business. Like I actually struggle to name, like, 'cause I see the chat right now is like, you know, listing like all these stars who complain. Is there a star in the league that doesn't complain? This would be a great question to ask like Tony Brothers.
Yeah. That would be an awesome question to ask Tony Brothers.
Because you know the referees are doing a podcast now. They got a little. I mean, what has the NBA come to? Who doesn't have podcasts, man?
The podcast
Y'all making
industrial
maximum
complex.
contracts, and you guys want to do podcasts, man? Like, just please, just be happy. Let us have one thing.
You know what the thing is though? They're not that popular.
Who? Oh,
Like
the NBA podcast.
player podcasts
yeah.
are not that popular.
I mean, when you can only tell one side of the story, like people eventually tune it out. Like it is what it is.
They're like, oh, Patrick Beverly thinks he's the best again. Okay.
I mean, he's got one of the most popular player pods, and he's
That's
not even in
true.
the league.
It's just because he's always like,
Yeah.
there's like the cry bully thing. Online people get very popular. It's like you say something slanderous,
Yeah.
and then you try and get somebody on your pod. You're like, defend your honor, brother. I don't know. It's my platform. That
Yeah.
type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But them's the breaks.
So
Yeah, player podcast. That's fun. Let them scream.
What's your welcome to the NBA moment? Or tell me your best Kobe Bryant story.
Yeah,
like that's just it becomes a little formulaic at times. Or it's just like, I mean, Gil's Arena is actually just, I mean, that's also a super popular one, but they just end up saying insane shit in there every day. I'm like, what is this, clubhouse for NBA players?
Yeah, the ones that are most popular are the ones that like they're not actually talking basketball that much. They just keep dipping their toes into like culture war stuff. And that stuff will always be super popular.
Yeah, popular, but not good for society.
No, it's bad. Yeah, of course
yeah,
it's
okay,
bad.
yeah, okay.
No, I'm not advocating.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, please. That's how you get Jeff Teague being like, yeah, Caitlin Clark would get destroyed by like whatever. I was like, oh man, like why? What is even the purpose of this statement, man? Anyway, Jeff Teague's podcast in general is great, though. I do like his pod in general.
He's funny.
Another question. This one from Koki. Have y'all been keeping up with college hoops? A little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you. A little bit more than usual. You know what I mean? You're like, oh man, Ace had like what 39 or 41 or something like that. I was like, I gotta watch the highlight. You know what I mean? And it's 39 of the hardest points you've ever seen. But you have to make a decision as to whether or not that's translatable or not. What else you watch? You watch a lot of Jaeger at the start. Feels like he's fallen off a little bit. I was at the arena the other day. Lee Van Osman, who does a great job of covering just up and coming young basketball players in Canada. He actually went down to Rutgers. They were playing Princeton, and he covered Princeton star Xavier Lee, who's from Toronto, and wrote a great piece about him, Toronto Star. So he's been sort of like, pretty tapped into just like collegiate hoops in general. And he was like, yo, man, we don't have to watch this Raptors. I forgot. I think it was Raptors Bucks. He was like, yeah, let's watch Kasparis. You know what I mean? Like, let's watch some college tape. So it is certainly a thing that we are pretty aware of, sort of where the Raptors season is going, and we are watching a lot more college in general. But I know you have a lot of scouting friends. Like, what's your college consumption these days?
It's basically zero. It's like I'm trying to spend a lot less time on social media. Like I used to, like during the first half of the college season, was just seeing stuff organically on Twitter,
Sure.
which you don't think it does, but that informs your views over time, of course. And then like, you hear about where the Raptors scouts have been, and you say like, okay, maybe this will direct me when I go and actually look. But currently, like I'm watching almost zero. Like I'll catch up on it when I need to, but I mean, I don't like college basketball that much. And again,
it kind of sucks. Sorry, man.
It's not fire, really. It's like it's the worst game. Yeah.
I mean, you would watch it because like covering the Raptors is also to like you. Obviously, so much of the season is going to bank on like, or going forward, it's going to bank on how they draft this year and stuff like that. But like, no, 9 to 9, I'm not gonna like, oh man, it's fire. I'm gonna tap into what Cooper's doing. Like, I'm like, I'll watch if Cooper does anything, Twitter will let me know about it at this point, right? So
yep.
But having said that, though, I probably will try to call up Sam Vecini again rather soon. Anyway, more questions. This one from P. Warren Groves Jr. By the way, first-time commenter, long-time listener, live in St. Louis, but grew up in Toronto. Started listening because Will's voice sounded a lot like a family friend from back home. That's really nice. Thanks, Alex. And also, I mean, first off, thank you to Wari for sending this in. I mean, feel free to comment more often. I mean, the live chat is, I gotta say, as far as live chats on the internet goes, this might be like one of the most positive ones. Like the most toxic I got was like, Samson, show me your head, which is like, it's fine, it's cool, man. And you're in full control of that. You know what I mean? And then we all had a great time with it in your game. But like, yeah, come interact with the live chat. If you can catch these post game live, it is a great chance to get your questions in and just to leave some nice comments like this one. But yeah, man, shouts to St. Louis. I've never been to St. Louis, but yeah. One question that we did have starred that we have taken off now, but I did see someone say earlier was, I think Kareem asked this earlier. Kareem's been leaving a lot of questions in the chat, and one thing he asked was just, how was your Jamaican Christmas? Because last we spoke, you did say that you were going to spend the Christmas at Trey's house. So Yeah. How's Christmas, man?
Christmas was great. I enjoyed it immensely. The food was banging.
Mm-hmm.
Trey's partner's mom is making me a blanket now since I went over there. We
Yeah.
watched. There was a lot of good basketball games that day. We basically
Yep.
just sat down on the couch and hung out and just like watched sports and ate awesome food. And then I played him in ping pong. He talked all this trash, man. He was like, "I'm the king of ping pong."
What?
And he was talking about pickleball. He's like, "There's a 48-year-old mom and I beat her ass at pickleball." And I was like, "That doesn't
maybe
mean
you
you're the racquetball king."
Yeah.
And then I beat his ass at ping pong, man.
Yeah.
He couldn't even touch me in ping pong. So it was great. I loved
Okay.
Jamaican Christmas.
What are you big on ping pong?
No,
Oh, okay.
I played it a little bit in high school because our high school had a ping pong table. Everyone has a ping pong phase a little bit. Like you're
Yeah.
around a ping pong table.
I'm Chinese. That is a lifelong phase. So that's why I got so excited when you said ping pong.
Okay.
I know Alex is like, they're talking about Asian stuff without me again.
I
First
hold
dim sum, now ping pong. What can we have, Will? Sorry, Alex. Anyway, keep going.
I hold the paddle the correct way. I don't hold it like a tennis racket. I
Oh,
hold
you
it
do
like
pen
this.
holder.
Yeah, pen holder. So
Oh, man.
that's a check mark.
Yeah.
I do spin the ball. That's a
Nice.
check mark.
Nice.
I go no further than that though. I'm not like good at it or anything.
Honestly, that's pretty good, man. That's pretty chill. Have you ever watched ping pong at the Olympics or anything like that?
Yes.
Like high level ping pong.
Yeah.
Obviously Ma Long is the GOAT. He's like, I think a 3-time men's singles like gold medalist now at this point. He's also won a bunch of mixed doubles and stuff like that too, and also doubles. But my favorite is Xu Xin, so it's XUXIN. That's his like full name.
Mhm.
He is incredible, and if you ever get a chance to, if you ever you're like, I'm bored, or like, what's Will going on about, man? Let me search up XU space XIN. Just watch his like highlight reel as a pen holder. Like that's how I play too. It's like certainly the less popular grip, especially a left-handed pen holder grip. But like, man, he's insane. Like I'm putting you guys on. That's right. Xu Xin is our problem, man. Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a lot of sports where I watch it and I can conceive of how it makes sense. I'm like, I can't do that, but it makes sense. But high level ping pong, absolutely not, man. It's when they're going, it feels like almost incalculable. I'm not even sure exactly how guys make it happen. But yeah. Anyway.
Alex says, why don't you guys review John Woo movies too?
Let's go.
Thoughts on the 97 handover in Hong Kong?
Face off to arm wrestle scene, Or wait, no, it's not from Face Off. Anyway, Face Off is a crazy premise, but a great movie.
Yeah, it is. I also saw one request because obviously the Cavs did win this game. As a joke for my birthday recently, Alex did give me this book. Alex and Jerome gave me this book, Evan Mobley. How Evan Mobley Became One of the NBA's Best Players by Jackson Carter. It is a very short book, which I think, even slander aside, like, I mean, come on, man. Like, there's this is a pamphlet. And no disrespect to Jackson Carter, who I don't know do you know this person? Like obviously you've seen some, you've been on NBA Twitter a lot.
Mid Google right now of Jackson.
Okay, yeah.
Carter.
What is Google saying?
Just the book comes up. It has
That's
a
it.
3 out of 5 on Amazon.ca.
Yeah.
And it costs $17 if you want to know how much it cost for the gift. Jackson isn't coming up on Twitter, I don't think.
Here's the thing. Okay, I'm not trying to slander Jackson Carter, who may or may not be a real person who wrote this book, but I will just read you an excerpt and you tell me if this was ChatGPT like inspired and then printed into a book, okay? This is the first chapter. Evan's Kid Days, which is the headline for this chapter, the title for the chapter. Evan Mobley was born and raised in California and went on to attend Rancho Christian High School in Temecula. Wow, he was born in Temecula?
Whoa!
Yo, meet me in Scottie versus Evan Mobley in Temecula. When can we go? That'd be sick.
Dude.
Located between San Diego and Los Angeles, but his favorite team wasn't necessarily the local Lakers nor the San Diego Clippers of yesteryear. In a video recorded before the 2021 NBA draft, Evan admitted to fellow draftee Jalen Suggs from Gonzaga that his preferred team as an impressionable kid was actually OKC, the Oklahoma City Thunder, who were once known as the Seattle Supersonics, in case you didn't know. Quote, they had a tough squad, Suggs readily agreed, since both of the top prospects were born in 2001, which is ridiculous, bro. That is too early, man. Bro, my brother's in 2002. The Lakers' years of nesting at the top of the West in the NBA were long gone when Mobley and Suggs became teens. What? I mean, not really. I mean, they won the title in 09 and 010, but okay. Indeed, the Thunder were far superior in the youngsters' formative years. The two grew up watching Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook dominate while they tamed the Wild West until 2016, that is, when they ran into the on-target Splash Brothers, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and the juggernaut called the Golden State Warriors. The rest of this is not particularly interesting, but I don't know. Part of it, I'm just like, it feels like a high school project. It's my book review. It just feels like a high school project. I'm just like, this is definitely not Prehistoric by Alex Wong.
Okay.
Or Cover Story by Alex Wong. It's not even We the Chance by Alex Wong and Sean Woodley.
So, Jackson Carter, I found it on Amazon. Jackson Carter, their picture, it says Jackson Carter biographies, and their most popular is a $2 book called J.J. McCarthy, the inspiring story of J.J. McCarthy's path to something.
Okay.
He's also written the NFL's rising superstars, the NFL's best quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud, the inspiring story of C.J. Stroud's path.
Okay.
Giannis, the story of how Giannis. I think this is a lot of like Wikipedia plus a little bit of info, and then it's a book now.
If you printed Wikipedia into size 20 font, this is kind of what you're getting. So, I mean, not to say I'm ungrateful for this, Alex. Thank you. I will maybe read more of Evan Mobley's book, quote unquote, when we play the Cavs next, if we do play the Cavs again. But this is pretty funny. Also, Alex did say in the live stream, it's too late. Your new Asian best friend is Samson. I mean, look, Alex, man, it's nothing personal, bro. Like, you're still in the top 5. You and Jerome still in the top 5 now. Come on now.
Next year is not Jamaican Christmas, it's Chinese Christmas.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Chinese Christmas is very uneventful. Yeah. I feel like Jamaican Christmas is a lot more fun. Maybe like Chinese New Year is coming up end of the month kind of thing. But yeah, well, Samson.
Also, sorry to Jackson Carter. If a lot of work went into this, my apologies.
I'm just saying, you probably spent like 2 hard hours writing this book. I'm just saying, man. I've seen longer Joe Wolfon features at the score than this, man. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. This isn't exactly Samson's like, I've watched every Scottie Barnes pass and let me tell you about it type. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, but Evan Mobley's book was written in 2 hours. I'll just tell you that much. So Coco says, get Samson some red envelopes. Honestly, I feel like, you know what? I will get you a red envelope. I'll present it to you at the game. Chinese New Year is at the end of January this year. So yeah, there you go. Next one, Anto Chan says, Chinese Christmas is telling you Santa doesn't exist at a way too young age. I mean, like, why do you need to exist with this fantasy, man? Why don't you just live in the real world? You know what I mean?
When I was really young, my brother, I think at age 5, he looked up Santa in the dictionary and it said fictional, and they looked up fictional and it said fake. And I learned from like 4 years old that Santa was not real.
That's a lot of investigative skills for a 5-year-old.
He graduated high school early.
I mean, he's certainly ahead of the curve. Your brother was rookie of the year type.
Yeah,
you know? He was a precocious young man. Yeah. Christmas, I mean, it's just tough because also like my birthday's on the 23rd, and Christmas on the 25th, obviously. So it's just like, I just kind of look at it as like one thing, you know what I mean? So the best thing is I get to see family and it's time off. But yeah, you're right. Chinese Christmases are not particularly extravagant, but of course the country's not particularly Christian either. So it is what it is. Okay, we're gonna wrap up your 3 stars from tonight and hand out some awards. Your first star, Scottie Barnes. I mean, Scottie definitely was the best Raptor tonight. 24 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals. Did quite well. Okay, I would give him a slight decision over Evan in the in the running feud that I quite frankly I'm just doing for petty reasons. But he played really well tonight and had a good game. Who are your second and third stars of the game tonight, Samson?
So Chris Boucher is number 2, and I think we talked a bunch about Chris. We gave him a lot of airtime, but I know you're a big Jamal Shead guy, and we didn't even get to talk
Oh,
about his
Shead
career
had a good
high.
game too. Yeah.
So 15 points, 6 of 7 from the field, +4.
Okay.
This was one of Jamal's. I don't think this was his best game because he had certainly better
Best
overall
offensive game.
floor.
Though.
Yes, but he was going 3 for 3 from downtown. That's a big deal. Getting a couple layups to go, that's a big deal. Hitting the mid-range jumper, big deal. And I know you're a big Shead guy, so I mean, it's an avenue for you to be like, hey, my guy.
Yeah. Listen, Jamal had a tough game last night. Pretty tough game. Felt like he was turning the ball over a lot. He still had one turnover tonight that was unforced. I'm gonna really need him to get better at the turnovers. But this is certainly his best offensive game. You know, like if you're a real sicko and you come to cover the Raptors and they're playing at Scotiabank Arena and you go for a 7:30 game, you go for like 4:45, 5 o'clock. What you will typically see is the rookies sort of like playing in drills together, and they'll just sort of like run 3-man drills against assistant coaches, and they'll find a variety of ways to score. And then they'll do this drill where they'll put, I've usually seen it with like Jamal, Jameson, Jacoby now that he's healthy, and Jonathan. And like they would go through and they would just try to see who can make 10 threes, I believe, from each spot first. Almost like a mini 3-point contest. But basically it's just like a volume 3-point shooting thing. Like they're literally getting up like, I don't know, maybe 100 shots. It's 4 spots. If they, hopefully it doesn't take 100 shots to make 40 wide open ones, but still, for some of them it does. It is no shame in that. I'm watching that. I was like, so basically my point is like you get to see a lot of Jamal shooting the ball, and I was like, Jamal actually, for a guy who like didn't shoot the ball that well in college, like he seems like he can at least knock it down in this sort of arena and stuff like that too. So, I'm happy to see some of that translate here. The biggest thing obviously for him was to knocking down the threes, but also some good back cuts as well, playing without the ball as the point guard. He's got a quickness to him. I feel like he always catches at least one guy by surprise with a quick crossover at some point. Like he crossed up Ty Jerome. Yeah, a little hezzy, and then he gets into the lane and he's always playing full speed. The game's got to slow down maybe just a little bit for him. I think that's part of the passing thing. But yeah, he had a good game offensively, and that was actually kind of that's fun. I'm happy you gave him the 3rd star. The Gerald Henderson Award winner tonight is going to be none other than Caris LeVert. Caris was just he was killer, man. Knocked down 4 of 9 from 3, 6 of 12 from the field overall, 18 points, stepped up really big with 5 assists as well in Donovan Mitchell's absence. I think there's maybe a case you can say for like Strus, for example. Strus was able to knock down some threes. I mean, I've seen Strus like hit some. I think Strus had like a 20-point quarter against us last season. Like,
Strus is pretty sick.
What it is. Yeah. No,
interesting hair now. He's
sure.
He's doing the swept back, like what is it? Fabio got the headband,
Yeah.
The fuller beard. He's kind of going for something right now.
He looks good though. Like
he's handsome.
He's got a little swag to him. Yeah, I like that. He looks like he's from the 80s right now, which things will always come back and be popular full circle. But yeah, he was really good. And then finally, your most important guy. I got to remind you that the most important guy is brought to you by Greta Bar YYZ. That is located at 590 King Street West. You've heard me talk about it before, but it's the best place to go pre-game, post-game, during the game to catch all your live sporting events. And of course, if you ever get bored, you also have great drinks, great food, and of course, great company playing great games over at Greta Bar YYZ. Most important guy from the game tonight. I don't know. Samson, do you have any ideas for who's the most important guy tonight?
I mean, it has to be a Raptor, right?
It could be anybody. I should clarify
Garland,
that
it's definitely Darius Garland.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, it's definitely Darius Garland. I was gonna joke to say like you could say anybody. Like it could be Alvin on the broadcast. It could be Alex for being salty in the chat.
Podcast. Actually, it could be Alex.
No,
sure, Alex can win. Sure.
Nah, come on, man. He's getting
I'm trying to get back on his good side.
No, I don't think that's possible at this point. It's Darius Garland, bro. I mean. This was outrageous what he was doing. Seven says, "Don't give you a petty win." All right, well, you sounded like our boy Ennis over here. That's an inside joke for 3 people, including Ennis, who's listening. Happy travels in France. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Garland he was just ridiculous tonight, man. Like it was kind of unfair almost watching him. Like it was like we have Quickly, who's a really good point guard, but like I would love to see one time for him to reach like this type of level. This was elite stuff from Garland.
I don't think IQ and Garland have the same level to reach personally, but that's okay. You don't have to be Garland to be
I can hope player, though. I can hope, man.
We
just
can
hope
and dream. Let's hope. Yeah.
I hope. Yeah. But he was awesome tonight. Okay. Samson, you were also awesome tonight. Appreciate you. You already mentioned that you're doing the pod tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Today's Thursday. Saturday. You doing the pod.
Yeah, there'll be a pod out Saturday because we had audio malfunction for today's pull-up tray, so it'll come out on Saturday instead.
That's tough. Okay. Well, you guys are gonna go through everything that's not going right with it.
Yeah, I think we're gonna talk about a lot of the bad stuff. Yeah. So we wanted to have a little bit more of a shelf life, so people can revisit what's going bad or good for the Raptors type thing.
I think that's fair.
We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, they're 8-30, but also at the same time, it's like there's a couple other things, but 3-point attempt rate. I'm sure you guys will touch on something like that.
It's
Darko
not like,
conversation.
It's not like a doomer approach. It's like saying like this. This is bad. This is why. But we're a pretty light podcast. We like to laugh, and
nice.
It's not going to be like the worst framing, I don't think. But
no.
Yeah.
It's going to be, as Darko would say, it's not going to be calling you out. It's going to be calling you up.
Exactly.
What can the Raptors be called up on this
Your
season?
face when he brought that back, it was pretty good. I saw your reaction. You were like, like it was like a special present just for you.
I've heard it 3 times now. Anyway, so okay, appreciate everyone listening. Again, if you enjoyed it, please hit a like, hit a subscribe to the channel. Actually, one note to pass along: on Saturday, I'm actually not gonna be doing the live React pod. Me and Alex got invited to a very special dinner by friends of the program over at Patois, who are actually opening a new location, a new restaurant. So we got the honor of getting invited to have a nice little dinner. So we are gonna go show up for our friends and also get a nice meal. But of course, we will still have the React pod. It just won't go live. I will still be giving you some thoughts on Raptors Pistons, because what else is more important than that on a Saturday night. But it will not be going live, but otherwise we will be going live. But I appreciate you guys for listening, and for Samson to come on the show, and Alex for producing it. And this has been the Home Welcome Podcast, presented by Betway.